Welcome to Grace. My name is Stephen and this is church.
Genesis chapter 12, 1-9. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai and his brother's son Lot, and all the possessions that they had gathered, and the persons whom they had acquired in Haran, and they set forth to go to the land of Canaan. When they had come to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place at Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built there an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. From there he moved on to the hill country on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and invoked the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on by stages toward the Negeb.
The last couple of weeks, I actually had to go on my own journey. My family and I packed up the car and we went just outside of Ottawa. My grandma, who's 96 years old, has had to move into a senior's home. So that was quite a move, and so I did the good grandson thing and made sure that she had a visit, right when she first got in there. Now, to be truthful, my sister, who lives in Ottawa, is really the best grandchild because she has gone multiple times and she always updates me on how my grandmother's doing or how our grandmother's doing. So thank you to my sister, and I promise you, we know you're doing good things over there. But, for me, a journey to Ottawa, which is only like a 5-hour drive, or outside of Ottawa, a 5-hour drive, that's quite a journey. Maybe I'm just not a car driver. There's somebody in our church which has a son who is in Ottawa, and they drive routinely home to surprise their mom for Mother's Day, surprise somebody for their birthday, just to come and say, "Hey, I'm still your son. I'm still here." Just because we live far away doesn't mean I don't love you. Live far away. So maybe 5 hours is not insurmountable, but for Stephen, it just seems like a big drive. I'm just not a driver. I'm going to have to get used to it. I have kids, and I'm just going to have to learn how to drive. In this last Sunday, a sad thing happened that most people don't know about. We have a bookkeeper at the sharing place, and our bookkeeper has just sold their house. They are retirement age, or they are retired, I should say. And they decided that life was short and that there was some family members, particularly parents, that lived all the way out in Vancouver, and that it was now time to go out to Vancouver to live permanently. So our bookkeeper has departed last Sunday, got in their lovely Toyota, and I trust has made their way to beautiful Vancouver. It's funny, my bookkeeper didn't let age stop him from doing it. Just got in a car and did it. Just made a decision, sell the house, buy a new place, did it. Age shouldn't stop us. When I went to go visit my grandma, who's 96, quite a bit older than my bookkeeper, my grandma just kept on saying things over and over. Maybe it's best if I would go. What purpose do I have here? Maybe God's forgotten me. What do you say to that? As a grandson, as a pastor, what do I say? Well, I say this. I say, Grandma, your mind is working. Your body is working. Maybe God has something for you. Last week we talked about rest. Of course, at a certain age, everybody should get some rest. There's no doubt about that. But there's lots of hours in a day? What about praying? Praying for somebody, praying for a church, a ministry. What about being an encourager? Finding somebody young that you can just call up, not to complain about the government, not to complain about the weather, not to complain about this, that, inflation, right? But just to encourage, say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. What about a mentor? Us young people, we could really use some wise people in our lives. It would just be good to know there's somebody out there that we can call and have a conversation with and shoot ideas off and hear from their experiences and then use it for our betterment in our lives. I'm happy that I have a few of those people in my life, but I know that there's some other people out there that could use something like that in their life. This last week at the sharing place, a man came to us who has been using the sharing place off and on for years. And he said to me, he said, hey, Pastor Stephen, is it possible? Is there any way you could fit me in that I could volunteer? I am sure that this man is over 70. And I said, yes, of course. Of course there's something to do. Let me think about it. Give me the weekend. I'm going to get back to you Monday. But there's definitely something for you to do. In the story today of Abram, we see that Abram wasn't exactly the youngest of fellows when God called him to leave his land. When you think about journeys, sometimes we think of young people, younger than me people, going out and about, leaving their space to make a life of their own. Well, in Genesis, we see the story of Abram, and we realize that God called a 75-year-old to leave his place. I think a lot of us think at 75, I'm about to put my feet up, watch my favorite Netflix, just rest. Well, God called a 75-year-old. So whatever phase you are in life, if you're in the older phase, as people of a certain age, hey, I'm glad you made it, but it's not quite time to rest. We're going to a place for eternity. I'm sure we're going to rest there. But right now, there's still things to do and things that you could be involved in that everybody would gain from. Last Thursday also was a time where there's somebody connected to the sharing place who had a birthday. And so I said, would you like to go out to eat? And we went out to eat. And we prayed. We had this lovely meal. Hey, how's it going? What's God doing in your life? That sort of thing. It's a great meal. And then all of a sudden, there was this pause. And they said to me, I can't believe that next year I'm going to be 40. And they said it in a way that made me think that they had this huge schedule of what their life was going to be. And they are way off course. All the things that they thought they were going to get done by 40 aren't exactly done. Well, that's okay. There's still plenty of time. I told that story at the sharing place at nighttime, and some of the older people laughed because, 40 is young when you're 70. But sometimes there's a midlife, and you recognize, wait a second, what happened to all the time? All the time I thought I had is going much faster than I anticipated. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to encourage you this. Don't waste too many minutes thinking about the time you wasted. All that's doing is wasting more time. The better route about this is to redeem the time. Recognize that, maybe I wasted some years or months, or however you want to frame that, but now's the time. Today's a new day, and I'm going to make the best use of the time that I have remaining. I hope that's an encouragement. We had a great lunch, and I hope that person has another 40 years of good things in their life, but the time is not over. Whatever you want to do or whatever God's calling you to do, He will equip you and bless you and make sure that you can do it. You just need to accept it and walk out in faith and do it. Well, before we end today, I have this sheet of paper. And on the sheet of paper, I'm going to read out some ages. Samuel was called at the age of 12. Timothy was 16 when he met Paul. Samson was 20 when he was judge. David was 30 when he first became king. Jesus was 33 when he gave his life. Moses was 40 when he was called in the wilderness. Sarah, 90 when she finally became pregnant. Simeon, 200 when he blessed Jesus. Enoch, 364 when he walked with God. And Noah was 600 years old when he took that maiden voyage on the ark. All that to say is that God uses all people, whether they're young, whether they're in between, or whether they're of a certain age. God has a purpose for each one of us. Perhaps the purpose is just to be you or just to be me, and God watch from up above and say, that is my creation. I love that person. Just watching them makes me happy. On the other hand, perhaps there's a bit more for you. Perhaps if you open your mind to the possibilities, and you open your ears to listening, and you open your heart to obeying, perhaps, just perhaps, God has something in store for you. This is Grace. My name is Stephen, and this is Church.